Hi everyone. Mark, I finally get you to be on the stream from the US, and we just saw, I don't know what we just saw, but it was really bad. I mean, I'm laughing, but I'm feel embarrassed, to be honest, to be on the show and talking about Ajax right now. But I'm just the host, right? So I'm gonna give it to you. Tell us, tell us what you can say about this game.
Oh
Conclusions,
man.
something.
First time being back on here. Not been a great season to be on the live shows, live streams after the game. But yeah, I mean, what can you say? I mean, did anyone expect anything different? I certainly didn't. Ever since we've
Hold on,
started
not
going.
even after last week, after last week's
No,
performance. No.
no,
All
no.
right.
Ever since going to this like 5-4-1 formation, no attackers on the field. Like this is what we're playing for. We're just trying to play these like very slow, boring games, like solid defensively. And it's just like it's not fun. It's not exciting. It's like not who we are. And I'm almost happy in a way that we got crushed in the way that we did because like this isn't Ajax and it doesn't deserve to be succeeding. And we should have already been eliminated by Bodo Glint last round. Like it was a goddamn miracle that we're even in this round to begin with. And I'm honestly a little bit happy that it's ended up like this because we've needed a massive wake up call. And the more that we keep skating through with these undeserved results, like against Bodo Glint, everyone thinks that it's all going great and we're close to being back, but it's more and more evidence that we are nowhere near where we need to be. The direction of this team, man, is just could not be going more in the wrong direction. And I was expecting it. Aston Villa are going to turn up at home. That they have better quality than we do. And yeah, that's what we got. And I hope now everyone is looking at this. Whenever this new CEO comes in, I hope he realizes like the changes that need to be made because top to bottom, it's been a disgrace of a season, and I'm glad that it kind of ended in such like a sort of embarrassing fashion because this should be the memory that people have of this season, and hopefully it sticks. And hopefully, when everyone sees PSV, lift the title 40 points ahead of us or whatever it is, it's a serious wake up call, and we change things for the better. I'm not crazy optimistic about it, but you know it's more likely to happen with results like this than if we somehow miraculously drew 0-0 and win on penalties. So if that's what's going to take for us to get back somewhere near the top, I would rather a result like this than sneak by on penalties undeserved like we did against Bodo Glint with a stupid like last minute winner like that. So
I have a question. Yeah, I have a question about the game. There's a lot of things you're touching upon, which I will ask you about later. About the game specifically, apart from maybe the first goal from Watkins with the corner kick, I felt the second, the third, and the fourth goal. We'll touch upon the red card of Monsverk in a bit, by the way. But those were all individual errors. And it felt like when Kaplan was brought off, we went back to the Ajax, the worst Ajax that we've seen this season. Everything fell together, and you see players that has been pretty decent lately, like Monsverk making errors, etc. Do you have a theory about that? Why a lot of players start making so many errors at the back? Is that the formation? Is it something else? Is it confidence? What is it?
I mean, it almost comes back to like our Stein discussion from earlier in the season. Like we are not being coached right now. We're not being coached. No one really knows what's going on. And it's a combination of terrible coaching, no one really understanding like what they need to do on the field. So therefore, there's a lot of doubt in players' mind. There's not a lot of confidence given how we've been playing this season. And then it's obviously like a lack of quality and inexperience. Like you can't undermine the importance of player quality. And I know that I'm big on the coaches make such an impact and, look at the quality of like a team like PSV, right? They have good players, but they're not world beaters by any means. This is not the 18-19 Ajax team with tons and tons of talent all over the field, but Peter Bosz is making it work for them despite all of their injuries. So the coach to me is like the most important piece of this. But then obviously there's the youth, there's the inexperience, and there's the general lack of quality. And I'm not even going to blame it all to the youth and the inexperience because look at Jordan Henderson today. I mean, awful. I mean, the before the first goal, he had to play ball gets played into his feet in midfield, and he just boots it forward with nobody within 30 yards of him. So it's so many, it's a culmination of so many different things. The coaching is terrible, so players don't really know where they need to go with the ball. You could tell with one of the plays by Mansverk at one point, he receives the ball in midfield. Nobody is within 30 yards of him checking anywhere. And it's like, at a certain point, he was like dribbling. And it's like, I don't even know what to do with this ball. Like, I don't want to kick it away because that's not like in my nature as a player, but like there's nothing on. And I think that there's so many just issues going on with this team. And I think that's what leads to the errors, is like players don't really know what's going on from a tactical standpoint. They're not the best technically either, which makes it very difficult to play out of. But there's still this sort of idea of like the Ajax style that's kind of like in their head a little bit. So I think instead of just like booting it long, like maybe a Henderson might do, which is not great, but it avoids catastrophe, they try and like play the ball out, and it leads to mistakes, and it is what it is. So many different issues. I think it starts with the coach first and foremost, but our good pal Sven still deserves a lot of blame for the way that this team's overall quality has just diminished drastically in the last year.
Yeah, you already touched upon it, how we're being coached, but also Mansverk, there were already signs that he should have been taken off, right? Because he already was making a couple of mistakes, not entirely by him, because what you said as well, tactically, we were all over the place, so he didn't know what to do with the ball, but you saw that he was struggling, and still Van de Schip kept him on the pitch, etc., etc. Do you feel like that maybe is the highlight of, coaching in this particular game?
For sure. It's like, and I don't even want to blame him too much, right? Like, I know I'm harping on about Van Schip and everything like that. Like, he was coming into a situation, he didn't want to be here. He's just doing it because Stein was a disaster and we needed to figure something out. And, he wanted to come in and try and help out as best he could. And look, he's not good. We know that. We've known that forever. There's a reason why he's not been a successful coach. But yeah, you're seeing the limitations that he has, but he was put into a terrible situation and we hired him. So that's our fault to begin with. Instead of trying to find a coach that could take us forward, we decided that we're going to throw away this season. We decided we don't care this season. Big X through it. Doesn't matter. No progress is going to be made this season is basically what we've decided with bringing in like an interim coach like Van Schip like that. We played for like weirdly like short-term success kind of. It's just been a mess with how it's all been handled. But yeah, it goes back to the coaching, the players, everything. I don't know.
Yeah, as much as, you told me before we went on the show that you checked out already for this season. I don't think a lot of Ajax fans have checked out. Maybe a lot have done so, but we still have 9 games to go in the league, which is really important also for next year, Europe, etc. How would you make something out of this team after a beating like this going forward? We have to play Sparta in the weekend. You're talking about a 5-4-1 formation. It doesn't look right. It's not good. We're very much dependent on Brobbey, who's like he couldn't do anything. Would you switch back? Like think like, hey, listen, okay, we're out of Europe now. This is not working. Attacking wise, it's not working. We're just slowing the game, like you said. We're playing very, how do you call it, like standing football? Do you say that in English?
Yeah, very slow, no movement.
Exactly. What would be your advice going forward? What would you like to see? I know you don't want to see the season anymore, but
Yeah, so I think if we were a well-run club, we would who we wanted to bring in as manager, at least from a stylistic standpoint, because you would think we have a short list of 3 to 4 to 5 coaches that all play a similar style, because you would hope that we don't have Jose Mourinho's style of football on the list, and then we also have Erik ten Hag, and we also have Pep Guardiola. Like, there should be some cohesion in terms of style of play that we want to play. So that should be first and foremost. We have an idea of the style of football we want to play. So therefore, you have a few coaches in mind of how they like to play from a formation standpoint, from a tactical standpoint. And then I would say, all right, let's start playing that formation. We don't know if it's going to be exactly the same as what's going to go on in the future. We don't know for sure. But I can tell you it's not going to be a very defensive 4-5-1 formation. So I would start playing more expansively, 4-2-3-1, 4-3-3. You can still play a 5-back formation if you want to, but let's get more attackers into the mix here and play like a more Bayer Leverkusen, Xavi Alonso style 3-4-3, 3-5-2 that has more attackers on the field and that is more expansive than what we're showing right now, and start playing some of the players that we think are going to be critical for next season and seeing what they can offer. Let's see more of Silvano Voss. We don't know what he can do. We need to play him. There is no reason to be playing, in my opinion, we're kind of stuck with him a little bit, but no reason to continue persisting with some of the older players as much as we are. And I think that even means like the likes of Jordan Henderson. We know he's going to be here next season. That's fine. Let's start seeing what we have with the unknown. Even Benjamin Tahirovic, he showed up a little bit at the beginning of the season. Let's start playing him more. We need to understand who we can rely on next season. Jordan Henderson, Bergwijn, Berghaus, we know they're good. If they want to stay, if Bergwijn and Berghaus give us assurances like they are staying next season, sure, start them. Let's get some wins here and there, fine. But we need to be mixing in some of the younger players from the academy, Mika Götze. You need to be subbing off Henderson earlier in games or rotating him every other game or so with the likes of Tahirovic, because we need to see who can we rely on for next season or who is totally done. Like if we think Chuba Akpom, 27, 28, however old he is not going to be a contributor next season, I'm done with him. I'm done. Call it a day. There's no potential out of Chuba Akpom anymore. We know what he is. And if we don't think he's good enough, which to me it seems pretty apparent, let's stop playing him. It's fine. Let's move on. There's no reason to have such like a short-term view on what we're doing anymore because we're not good. We know that. We need to plan for the future.
I understand what you're saying, and I agree to a certain extent. But if you want to salvage this season and make the most out of it still, because we're not safe at the 5th spot right now. We're not safe. NEC is following us. I think they're 1 point behind us and stuff. So we have the risk of missing out on Europe completely. Would you still go and take that risk and play young players because we want to think ahead for next season? Is that so? You're saying let's not focus on the short term right now. Let's look long term, because our effort, our focus should be summer next season, rebuild. Is that what you're saying?
100%. 100%. I just think the short term view has not been working for us this season, and the short-term reality is that we are 30 points behind PSV. And we're 30 points behind PSV, and we get knocked out very early in the Europa Conference League to Aston Villa 4-0. That's our short-term reality. And look, other Ajax fans can agree, disagree, whatever. If you say you're like an anti-fan by wanting the team to like not do well or whatever, more power to you. But in my mind, what makes me happy as a fan is competing for titles and for making deep runs in Europe. Essentially everything that we had in the Ten Hag era. It doesn't always work out. We lose to Benfica along the way. You lose to Roma along the way. It is what it is. But we knew at the start of every season, like there was hope. Like we have a team here that on their day can beat and compete with the best in Europe. And to me, that's a brand. 100%. And an exciting, fun to watch style of football. And that to me is like the ambition for what we are as Ajax. We know that we can pluck all the best players from the Eredivisie for the most part. We know that in the short term, a lot of these teams in Holland, Feyenoord, PSV, they're going to be losing their best players. Bakayoko is going to be leaving. Santiago Jimenez is going to be leaving. We're okay. You know, we don't need to be so nearsighted to think that like we're going to go from a top 6 club in the Eredivisie to all of a sudden like being relegated. Even though at one point in the season with our good pal Stein, we were in the relegation zone. So I think to me, everything just needs to be a long-term objective. Where do we want to be in 3 years? Because we truly need to reset the clock because we're nowhere near. We're 30 points behind PSV and we're losing 4-0 to Aston Villa in the Europa Conference League. So to me, you have to set a plan, create a plan, stick to it. And that starts, in my opinion, with figuring out what we have, figuring out where we actually need to be smart and spend money versus where we actually have players. Because in my opinion, that's what fell through last season. There just wasn't enough understanding of the squad. And that's how you end up signing an Anton Gay for 3-4 million, whatever it is, when you have Wrench and when you have Goyer coming through the academy. And in my mind, we should not be in a position to do that again because we have no excuse not to play the youngsters right now. We suck. It's okay. Let's go down swinging with the youngsters. Let's see what we have. So that way for next season, we can very confidently say, yes, Silvano Voss can be a player on this team, or no, he can't. And I'm just using Voss as an example, but there's others.
The only argument I would have opposing that is that you already referred to the fact that we have a coach that is not tactically very clever. Let's put it that way. I'm just being nice now. And even experienced players are struggling. And you mentioned Henderson. If you put young players there and there's no real structure, it might also hurt them in the long run in terms of their confidence, in terms of their growth, etc. How do you see that?
I think that's a fair point to make. I think it's fair. I think that, however, there is significantly less pressure on Ajax now than there generally ever will be again, at least in my mind. I can tell you that, like, look, as much as Ajax fans are into the season, out of the season, whatever it is, I think all of us are very resigned to the fact that, like, we're not a good team, right? We're not competing for the title. There are no truly meaningful games left, in my opinion. And I actually think that's kind of a good opportunity for the youngsters to come in because they almost have nothing to lose. They have nothing to lose. I don't like, we just drew 2-2, whatever. We just lost 4-0 against Aston Villa. Like, it can't get much worse than this. And that's with all the quote unquote, like, experienced players playing. So in my mind, like, go with the youngsters. They almost have nothing to lose. You tell them, hey, this is your opportunity. Like, show what you can do. Let's bring a breath of fresh air to this team right now that desperately needs it. And I think it could be like an interesting opportunity for them to just come in and kind of see what they can do, show that they have the level, knowing that there isn't a crazy amount of pressure on them right now. You know, we're not competing in the Champions League. You know, this isn't throwing on Silvano Voss against Real Madrid away, you know, where we really need to win. This is just sticking him on against Emmen at home. You know, it's like you guys are playing these types of teams and with young Ajax, like, you can handle this step up. So in my mind, that's what I would do. And I like the fact that, like, we played Helnesen for a big part of this season. I like the fact that we played Marta for a big part of the season, because what did we learn? We learned that Marta does not have the level. We learned that very clearly. So that's good for us to check off the box. Like, Marta, cannot count on him. Helnesen, okay, there's something there. He's had some good performances. He scored some nice goals. He's created some goals himself. I don't think he's a world beater, but we know that we could rely on him to win a few games in the Eredivisie. That's useful to know for next season. So I just think there's more of that we need to parse out with this team. So in my mind, that's where I would head with it. Let's start planning for the future, because the short term right now is bleak.
All right, let me go through the comments quickly. If you want to react to some, let me know. If anyone has a question for Mark or wants to say something to Mark, let me know as well. So I'll pull it up for him as well. Just a couple of comments. I cannot do all of them, guys. I have a lot here, but let's say, Pucci, this is basically he's done. He said, good luck. At least he's nice, but he's going to bed. So he will be checking it later, I think. Steve is, hold on, not this one, but Steve had a comment. Let me see if I can. Yeah, sorry. I will come to Steve in a bit. Steven is saying, gents, in your opinion, what went wrong? 4-0 is a mighty strong statement, almost as bad as being tossed out of the Baker to an amateur side.
God, everything. Everything went wrong. I mean, just tactically, just so poor. The individual quality is so low. And when you go behind, like, the only chance we have in a game like that is to keep it scoreless for as long as possible. And we were doing okay in the first half. Like, there weren't many chances, but then to switch off.
Can you imagine? I mean, you've been following Ajax for quite some time. I've been following Ajax for a bit longer. In all my life, I have never seen Ajax playing like that, playing just to not concede goals. Basically, it's like a 180 of what we're supposed to do.
Totally. That's why I tweeted it earlier, and I had some comments back at me saying, "Oh, I'm not so sure." This was the most depressing European game, or any game for that matter, I can remember as an Ajax fan in a long, long time. I called out the RB Salzburg 6-1 on aggregate loss in the Europa League in 2014, but at least they had Saudi.
But at least there we went out with our own football brand.
Totally.
We tried to play our football.
Yeah, I was just going to get to that. And someone cited, like, Rostov as an example too, which was obviously terrible, crazy, but at least it was Peter Bosch. Like, we were going pretty gung-ho. Like, we were trying to attack. We were trying to do everything, and we just got hit on the counter and set pieces and stuff. But this, to set up like your Burnley, and just park the bus and you're playing for a 0-0, it's depressing. But yeah, what went wrong is, when you set up like that and you concede early with a set piece goal, it's not really going to go well for you after that.
Yeah, it's checkmate, basically.
Yeah.
All right. Steve is saying, this was the comment I was looking for. No Gods, no Forbes, no Rijkhoff. This is cowardly from the Boer football. Not a fan. When Ajax was regularly ravaged in Europe. Yeah. All right.
Yeah, and I even want to say, I was looking at this too. This has really been my thought process the last couple months as I've been thinking about where Ajax has gone so quickly. It's funny because this is sort of our history in the 2000s. Since Louis van Gaal left Ajax, this is sort of our standard here. And you go back and you look at all the European results under Frank de Boer. When you lose to Steaua Bucharest, you lose to Dnipro, you lose to RB Salzburg. You go back a little bit further than that, and you're losing to Rapid Vienna and teams like that. This is what we have been for a long time in Europe. And you really see the Erik ten Hag era, tiny bit of Peter Bosz mixed in there, was truly an outlier. It was truly an outlier. And it's really sobering to be back like this. But at least back in the day, we had no money at the time, Exactly. So we're not spending much. We're playing Leslie Dessau and, youngsters like that, which I appreciated more. And to your point, at least we tried a little bit. It wasn't great football. Frank de Boer wasn't the best, but at least we were trying.
I would say, though, the Koeman era, when we had 2003, 2004, that team, we had crazy talents in that team. Young.
Yeah,
young,
it was basically that 2002 to 2004-05 window, exactly. and then the Ten Hag era. That's basically it.
Yeah.
Which is really depressing when you think about the level of player that we've had in these past 20 years. Suarez, Eriksson, Vertonghen, Snyder, Van der Vaart. It's not great.
True. Anthony is saying Ajax needs to stop appoint only Dutch managers. There aren't any Dutch managers available that are capable at the moment.
Yeah. Preach. And then this brings me to another point that I was looking at too. Do you understand how bad our managers have been since Louis van Gaal? It is astonishing how bad our managers have been.
The only thing I would say to that is it's very hard to compare to the Van Gaal era because that was a different era of football completely.
Totally. But I'm just saying in terms of elite coaches, we know Louis van Gaal is elite.
True.
He remained elite. He won, did his thing with Bayern Munich, Barcelona, Dutch national team, etc. Since Louis van Gaal left, the cast of characters that we've had as manager is honestly embarrassing. And to me, it really highlights what the main issue has been with Ajax these last 25 years or so, is that we are so close-minded and we only want to hire Dutch coaches and extra bonus points if you have any affiliation with Ajax, either as a player or formerly as a manager or whatever. I mean, look at this list. Ko Adrianza, Ruud Krol, actually our best manager overall, even though he didn't do well here. Ruud Krol, Koeman, Danny Blind, Ten Kate, Van Schip, Adrie Koster, Van Basten, Martin Jol, Frank de Boer, who was somehow better than the rest, Peter Bosz, Marcel Keizer, Erik ten Hag, the only good one in here, Schreuder, Heitinga, Stein, Van Schip. I mean, that is pathetic. That is pathetic. And that's, to me, why we have not been as good as we should have been the last 25 years or so.
Yeah, I'm just soaking it up right now, which are just all the coaches you mentioned.
Not basically.
The thing though, Frank de Boer will get, just quickly on this, Frank de Boer will get always, from my side, personally, the benefit of the doubt because he had to do with very limited resources in terms of quality of the players. Financially, there was not much available. So I think he did the most what he could do, right? And especially domestically. So I will give him the benefit of the doubt, but that was then. We shouldn't go back to Frank de Boer, in my opinion, because the football has evolved. We cannot play the Frank de Boer football of 10 years ago now. It's not going to work.
And it's also, I agree with you. I give Frank de Boer the benefit of the doubt too. Plus, he was coming in he was fresh, he was new, he was just he had only been an assistant at the time. Again, he was kind of the interim turned head coach. He's similar to me if we had hired Heitinga now. Like I would give him a little bit of the benefit of the doubt. Like he took over last year in a bad situation, did reasonably well, and then we're like, all right, you can take it on for a year, and let's say like he didn't do that great, whatever. Benefit of the doubt to Frank de Boer. But we know now he is not a good coach, and he was our coach for 4 years, and that says a lot. That like Frank de Boer has gone everywhere else and been horrendous, and yet somehow amongst that list of like 15 coaches, somehow he's arguably like in the top 5. Like that is kind of scary.
That's true. That's true. That's funny how you put it. Okay, I have to go quickly now. Let me see. Indirect is saying Schip lost his game. If I, as an amateur, see that Monsterk is at risk of a red card, he should be substituted at halftime. And Schip, who gets paid to see these things, does not. Then, F him. Yeah, he's upset. Ajax is saying, for fuck's sake, this season is a total shit show. And the icing on the cake is the 5-4-1 formation, which you touched upon. Shameful. Nickname is making a good point. He's saying the amount of red cards we're getting this season is insane, especially in Europe, by the way.
Almost every game.
Yeah, almost every game. Exactly. Gerard is asking, why not Bronco? Why not Forbes? Yeah.
Same thing with Forbes. That goes back to my other point. Like, let's see if he's good or not. Like let's figure it out. Let's give him like a run of like 5 or 6 starts. Like I don't think he's that good. I really don't.
Who's not that good? Forbes. Yeah.
I don't think he's that good, but he clearly has some A+ qualities, and that he is so fucking fast that like there is something there. Like let's at least give him a chance. Like let's give him a chance. Give him a few games to like see if he can like get into a rhythm. Like it's not easy as a player to just come on for 10 minutes here or there, 20 minutes here or there, and act as if you're going to show your best. I don't know if he's ever going to get there, but like, let's at least find out, right?
Look, hindsight is a beautiful thing, right? But I just want to touch upon, because you just triggered me about, we have 2 players that are on loan, there are more, but especially those 2, Mikotadze and Metz, and Conceição, who played for the Champions League just against Arsenal for Porto. How do you feel about that, looking at those players perform there?
It's a lot of the same thing. It's just like, to me, it's a little unclear with Conceição. Like, did he want to leave and go back home? Whatever. But let's say he didn't. Let's say he was comfortable staying. It's just like short-sighted. The near-termism that we're doing with all of this. Like we buy a player and we give up on them right away. Whereas, even though I think they're good, capable players, the likes of like Wrench, and look at Marta. We gave Marta like what, 8 to 10 like good starts this season, like pretty consistently. Like we give these guys constant opportunities, and yet the likes of like Mika and Conceição, I mean, like we barely gave him a look. And Conceição like always had some ability. Like you could tell, like he's quick, he's pacey, like he takes people on, he's fearless. Like I love that. Like we don't have any of that.
His first touch is really good.
We don't have any of that in our current team, but we barely gave these guys a chance. And last year, I get it, we had some better players and stuff, but God, it's the same thing. Like Mika, again, do I think he's necessarily where we want to be level wise? I don't know. But we never even gave him a chance, really. It's like, come on. Like I get you have to earn your minutes in training and whatever, and maybe he wasn't, but at the same time, like a couple of starts here or there, like let's see kind of what we have. Let's play him in his best position. Like again, I just think like the way that we've been managing all of the different players we have, arguably the last like couple years, honestly, we haven't done a good enough job of like trying to figure out who we have and like developing.
I don't want to go there because I don't want to bring him up, but I mean, if you look at Kudus and how we mismanaged him at Ajax, I mean, that's the most obvious case.
It's similar. I mean, we were really close to getting rid of him before last season when he blew up. Like he was very, very close to going to Everton, and without really giving him a proper chance. It's the same thing. I think I don't know what it is about Ajax and developing players at the moment, but we're sort of struggling. It kind of goes under the radar.
Yeah, but developing players that we sign, you mean?
I think even in general. I think besides defenders, we've been doing it. Look, we do a great job with your Hatos and Timber and Wrench and Delict and Ridderwald and Tete and Veltman and guys like that. But you look a little bit further up the field, other than like Gravenberg and I guess Taylor, because we've given him a go. But you think about like creative midfielders / wingers / attackers, other than Brobbey, who is not really like an on-ball player. He's more of like a runner and behind. We have not produced one in a long time.
That's
Really the last one we had was Noah Long, and like look how we treated him. It's not
Yeah.
great. When you go back, you're like, oof, Noah Long, Justin Clivert, and like Anwar El Ghazi. That might be our best three. Not great.
Christian, question for the panel, basically you. I've got a 10 session at my therapist for half the price. Do you think it's enough to cover the remainder of the season?
Get a few more.
Yeah, this goes even further. Javid is saying, does someone of them have any dignity, self-respect? What person you should be in terms of on the ship to come back tomorrow on the training grounds? How can you lead the team after this? Yeah, I mean, we're so towards the end of the season. There's nothing else we can do. I mean, what do you expect to do? There's nothing you can do, right? We just have to sit it out with the Van het Schip. It is what it is.
I think it is what it is. I agree.
Anthony is saying, if you would have told me 3 years ago we would have Ajax having a season like this, I would have laughed so hard.
Same. I thought we were done. I thought we had truly like hit a level that was too high for us to ever come crashing back down like this. Because like once you hit that level and we kept churning out the level of player that we had, and we have so much money from those like long Champions League runs, you knew that we had money to spend. And when you're signing the likes of like Bergwijn for 25 million and we get Berghausen, like you really did not expect to see it get crushed this hard. But Sven, Stein, they dropped a nuclear bomb on us.
Yeah, absolutely. Only for the week is saying the amount of mistakes the coach and staff made this game. I don't even know where to start anymore. It took Emery 10 minutes to embarrass him and expose the fraud. Yeah. People are just upset. It's hard, man, to swallow something like that. I mean, people fall in love with Ajax for a specific reason. And the worst thing is, of course, you would be upset if you lose 4-0. But 4-0 and the way we played, that's even worse. That's the combination that fans do not accept. I don't accept that either. That's what makes me very sad.
Yep, I agree.
Here we go. Ryan is saying Ajax needs a progressive, forward-thinking manager, a manager similar to Emery type or style, the Zerbi, these kind of coaches. I mean, honestly, Mark, look, we had Luke on the channel a couple of times. I don't know if you picked it up a little bit, but he was very much, saying, I want Knutse, etc. That didn't happen. He just signed a contract extension at Bodo. But in terms of, if it was up to you, who would you pick? Realistically, who would you pick as our next coach?
I genuinely do not know. It's not honestly someone that's probably like within the current Eredivisie. It's probably not someone that is currently managing in like one of those top 5 leagues. I think we need to go out and be creative. And look, like, I don't watch enough soccer all over the world to know where that manager is. It's somewhere in Austria, in Denmark, in wherever. There are good coaches out there. Look at like Ainge, right? From Asia. Like, you just got to be creative. There are coaches that are trying to mimic the style of like Pep and Klopp all over the world. And I think that if we are going to try and be different and not go back to Ten Hag, because I would pick Ten Hag if he's available, because I don't think we're going to get anybody better, knowing that our scope of coaches is literally, are you Dutch and do you have some affiliation to Ajax, of which Ten Hag checks those boxes. But if we want to be a little bit more creative, that is still in the Dutch sphere, so it's actually realistic, I would be okay with like a Pep Blinders. Like, I would be okay with that. I think at the bare minimum, it's exciting. Like, it's new. Like, we don't know what he's going to be. And the one thing I'll say about Pep Blinders is he has seen what it takes to be successful. He knows what successful looks like.
Yeah, but you can argue the same about Schroeder. He has seen what it is to be successful with Ten Hag.
Totally. And I get people's aversion to that. Yeah. The one difference I'll say is, one, we know that Erik Ten Hag is not Klopp. We now know that. I think we held Ten Hag in a higher esteem before we realized what he's done at Manchester United. I think we now realize, I think there was a time there where people were like Pep, Klopp, Tuchel, Conte, Ten Hag, maybe in that like top 5 coaches ranking. And I think we now realize that Ten Hag is a little bit below that. He has pretty significant flaws, even though he's a fantastic coach, in my opinion. Pep Lijnders has worked day in, day out with the second best coach of our generation. That's a long way from working with Ten Hag for one season, in my opinion. And we had seen Schroeder be a head coach elsewhere and have it not go well, as we saw with Bruges. So I think there's a little bit of a difference. And again, this is trying to follow the mold of what's been successful recently, in my opinion. Look at Arteta, look at Xavi Alonso, look at Zidane. These are guys that dealt with the elite coaches on a day-to-day basis. Look at Xavi now, Pep, Mourinho, Klopp. Those are the types of managers you want to be sort of emulating from like a standard standpoint. And again, this is prime Mourinho. And I just think there's no way that Pep Lijnders hasn't picked up something in these last 6, 7, 8 years working with Klopp day in, day out, that I would be okay with taking a chance with them. I prefer that to like Pascal Janssen or something boring like that. You know, give me something that could be very good, not something that we already know. That's kind of that's how I kind of see it.
Basically, you want to be innovative. As long as it's a bit more innovative, looking forward, etc. All right, cool.
Correct. Unless it's Ten Hag coming back, that I would take. But
of course, Millennial is saying, Mark, Silvano Vos is good enough. The problem is Ajax brought 4 number 6s: Tahirovic, Henderson, Manswerk, Branco. Yeah, you know. So now you have Vos basically. I mean, he's the last in that bunch, basically.
And that kind of comes back to my point around like squad planning. Like, you know, why did we bring Gay in when we knew we had Goyer in the academy? You know, why are we bringing Voss in? I mean, why are we bringing in all of those names that were just listed when we know we have Voss there? Like, fine, 1 or 2 or 3, you know, 1 or 2 is okay. But when you've got 4 players ahead of what in our estimation was like one of our best prospects, it feels weird. And I totally understand, you know, from the Voss's perspective or like Misahoy's perspective, I get why they're pissed off and like they want to leave. I don't think we're doing a good enough job of articulating what your development plan is going to be and what it's going to look like. And I think
according to Misahoy, that was one of the things that he was struggling with.
And I see it.
Yeah. All right. Look, Kans is saying, good to have Mark back on the show. And he's also saying should be more often.
Yes, thank you.
It's the time difference, right? The time zone that's killing us.
I know. I'm trying to avoid my work emails right now.
All right. I'll go quick. We're almost there. Sebastian is saying, to be fair, as an Ajax seat, Giovanni van Bronckhorst was my favorite. Least hated Feyenoord ever. Ooh. I'm not sure.
I wouldn't go that route.
I don't think I wouldn't go there either.
I want more creative than that. I saw some people name like Van Nistelrooy as well. No.
Yeah. Some people are saying, I think Pascal Janssen will be our next coach. It's the most obvious one, right? He's available. Sahabi is correcting you. It's you know. It's a blasphemy to say soccer, you know that, right?
I try and always do that, and sometimes when I get like animated and I'm talking quickly, I just default to what I'm used to.
Yeah, it's okay. Let me see. Yeah, I don't see any other questions, or maybe I'm just skipping quickly. Steven is saying, Lijnders, really, Mark, you're all over the place. You know?
How's that all over the place?
You did explain it, in my opinion.
Yeah. I think I explained it.
Yeah. MCA, thank you for being on the show. Saying good game. Lads, actually, we didn't have a good game, so thank you for being nice to us. Good luck. You guys deserved it fully, and good luck on the competition, and also top 4 challenge in the Premier League. It's going to be tough for you guys. Yeah. So that's it. Oh, here we go. We have one question. Just came in. Guys, what do you think of the rumor of Ole Solskjaer to Ajax? I think it started to spread today. Yeah, there was a rumor about him being offered by his agent to Ajax.
Weird one. I would probably lean no, but I'd have to like look more up about how his like Manchester United teams and like Molde teams played back in the day. I know he was like fairly successful with Molde. I don't know if I would hate it, but I would need to like research it a little bit more. I do like him as a person though. He's like very positive and upbeat, which is a welcome change from like the negativity that we have to deal with like Stein and Schroeder and these guys. In the same way that like Heitinga was kind of like a breath of fresh air like that. I could see Ole like kind of doing okay. There's worse options out there.
Steve is asking, oh, this is a question for me. Ajax, is Ajax going to play 5-4-1 against Sparta this weekend? Well, I would say yes. I don't see Van het Schip changing it around right now. But on the other hand, we saw 3 defenders being injured today. So I don't know how we're going to play with 5 defenders on Sunday. We have to wait and see. I don't know. Let's take it one game at a time. I'm not even going to think about Sparta right now. So sorry for that, Steve. But I hope you understand my answer. Christian is reacting to you. But Mark, why Leinders and not, for example, Reiziger, who has spent a lot of time with Ten Hag and knows the Ajax play style like nobody else? He's not coaching the young Dutch squad, by the way.
Sure, that's fine. I think Reiziger is fine. I didn't mean it to mean like, Leinders is like my dream option or he's the only option, but I think that he could be an interesting hire. And yeah, I think Reiziger at the time probably should have been given the interim role over Heitinga. I think that would have made more sense to bring him back. Or even when we hired Schroeder initially, I think there could have been some push for Reiziger. Yeah, I like, it's hard to say because we don't know what he's done in the same way as we don't know with Leinders. But obviously he did a good job with Ten Hag. He knows what good looks like, at least from an Ajax perspective. I'd be okay with that. I'd prefer that, in my opinion, Pascal Janssen, at least, again, different. Like, we don't really know what we would get. And the only people that could maybe change my mind on this is if like something is going wrong with the youth Dutch national team that he's managing. Like if he's not doing a good job or something, that I do not know.
All right. That's fine. Björn is saying time for Dies Janssen. Yeah, why not? I mean, if all 3 players are not available on Sunday, let's put the youth in, right? That's what we're good at. Sabi has a question. Do you think, Mark, we will remain 5th in the league?
You got to think so with like Bergwijn and Berghaus coming back. Like without those 2, we really lack quality. But I do think with those 2 back, we will be okay.
All right. I'm going to stop here. I just want to ask you one final question. You checked out. You already told me you checked out for this season. You will still watch the games, I believe, the games that are coming up. What will be the biggest win for you if Van het Schip does this for you from now till the end of the season? That's my question. I hope you understand what I'm trying to say.
Mm-hmm. Back to a normal attacking proactive formation, at least from a stylistic perspective, whether it's a 3-5-2 or whatever it might be, more attacking, get more players on the field, but I would prefer to see something like a 4-2-3-1, 4-3-3. So if he does something like that, great. Enough of these super defensive systems and tactics.
Mm-hmm.
And then the second thing would just be playing more of the unknown youngsters and or signings. So seeing a lot more of the likes of Forbes, hopefully Voss, hopefully Mika Götze, hopefully Rykov, guys like that, just to see what we have. And at this point of the season, I am just looking for positive individual performances. Like that's what is catching my eye right now, knowing that they can help us in the future. So seeing like Kaplan the last few games has been great. Like breath of fresh air. Like we had no clue that he was going to be this good. And look at him with a little bit of an opportunity showing how good he is. So I'm hopeful that we get a few more players kind of burst onto the scene like that. Obviously Mansverk, not good today, but I think generally has been showing himself pretty positively as someone that we can reasonably rely on moving forward into next season. So hopefully a few more players like that would be good enough for me. That's what I'm going for. Good, few more positive performances from the unknowns, Rykov, Forbes, players like that.
And if we drop to the playoff places and let's say we don't qualify for Europe, you wouldn't be too negative about that. As long as we do what you just said.
Correct. I don't think, frankly, having a season without Europe could maybe be like a good thing for us, like avoid the extra games, like get things back on track a little bit. Like it reminds me a little bit of like the 17-18 season with Ten Hag when we didn't qualify for anything. And we kind of just had like a full season to decompress a little bit, like focus on the tactical side of the game. The only difference is that we brought in Ten Hag early So it's not like we wasted a full half season. So it was kind of nice. We got Ten Hag in for a full half season. We had no European distractions, no flights to, Norway and all of this stuff. Like, it was just very easy to focus on like what matters, and we could plan ahead. And you saw what happened the next season. So if we have to miss out on Europe for one season for the greater good, I'm okay with that.
Perfect ending. Thank you so much, Mark, for making the time. I hope your boss is not watching. Hope to see you back maybe soon on the channel again. People want you back, so let's see if we can make it happen. Thank you all for watching. And guys, I know it's hard, but let's be hopeful, and let's keep supporting the team, the squad, until the end of the season. Sparta on Sunday. I'll see you then. Take care. Bye.